soothing right now.
Oh, people need that.
That's it. Welcome to the Taking Up Space podcast, episode number 1. I'm Andre in the flow. That's what some people call me. And I'm talking to...
Stacia Turner, aka Ghostface Killer.
yes. We've been wanting to get this podcast slash video project off the ground for, it feels like, has it been a year? Was it 6 to 8 months?
Minute. Almost, yeah. Time is relative, though.
Yeah. It's been some time, and we've got time now. So why not just be together and talk about the things that matter to us and the things that we would want to know more about?
Yeah.
So tell everybody a little bit about who you are, Stacia.
Who am I? We're getting philosophical that.
I'm just
kidding. I got jokes. Who am I? I call myself militant political ecologist. In layman's terms, I do community organizing around environmental justice, social equity, those kinds of things. I also write on the low key. I write a lot of poetry, sometimes essays, and I'm an all-around goof and clown.
Yes. But you are a lovable goof and clown. I'm
glad you think so.
I do. And the reason why we're here, I wouldn't have jumped into this project with you. This is not a byproduct of boredom and coronavirus. We've been wanting to do this project before we even knew what the fuck a coronavirus was. And I figured there's no greater time than the present to just kind of jump on and make it happen, especially since I've started figuring my shit out. Stacia's amazing. As you can see, she's all about social justice and environmentalism and raising up the voices of people who are perhaps pushed to the margins of life. Tell everybody about your work that you do with social justice in actual communities.
Sure. So I work for a nonprofit organization as a project manager in my formal title, but effectively what I end up doing is organizing community groups and community members to engage in park projects. So my organization will come into communities often that are Black or brown communities that are blighted and have a park in their community that is run down, usually used for clandestine, sketchy purposes, people trapping out the park, you doing all the things that people do in hood parks.
What does it mean to trap? I don't even know what that means. Trapping? You said trapping?
Selling drugs out the park.
Oh, okay. All right. So that's what usually happens. Okay.
Right. And so
that's not where I pick up mine. So.
So we go into parks where the neighborhood surrounding the park typically aren't really engaging in that park space because it doesn't feel safe. It's not an enjoyable place to go. And what I do is I work with community groups and residents that live around that park, and I figure out what's happening in the park, why do people not use it, how can I help to provide resources to get residents and the neighborhood associations and community groups that are active and care about fixing up the park and making it an enjoyable space. I help to get them resources to actually be able to do that and to take ownership over that park space. Because usually they're city-owned properties, but they don't really necessarily have the resources, or because of equity issues don't invest in those park spaces. So I help to empower the community to take ownership over that space, to steward it, to have resources to make it be the kind of place where they want to take their granny, take their kids, have a picnic, all of those sorts of things.
Yeah, I'm going to jump right in by asking how your work is affected right now by all of this.
Well, it's weird because on the one hand, I end up working. It's not affected in some ways because I work remotely, as it is a lot. So in terms of going into an office space, it's not impacted. But I also end up traveling a lot, and we have a lot of community events because community engagement is at the crux, like is at the center of the kind of work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really challenged now to figure out like how do we stay involved with the community, like community members who have been active in our projects. Like obviously the physical part, like construction projects are put on hold.
Right.
And kind of community event activities are put on hold. So now we're trying to adapt to like, well, how do we make this accessible to everyone? And we're going to be using Zoom meetings and stuff, but I'm thinking I've been reaching out to elders in the community who I work with to be like, will you be willing to get on a conference call and figuring out like, okay, if we do a Zoom meeting, like how do
Do they even know what a Zoom meeting is?
No, but they do know how to dial numbers. So what I'm figuring is I can.
Yes.
Well, I've been trying to. I'm not even trying to be sarcastic, but I'm walking you through my like mental process of being like, okay, so if we do a Zoom meeting for the people who can, who know are tech savvy enough to do that as community members, how do we engage the folks who aren't or who don't have access to the internet or to the computer?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, well, there's also a conference line for the Zoom meeting. So, I'm like trying to do on the ground, like talking to people one-on-one by calling them and trying to figure out like, okay, well, if I send them the dial-in number, then I can make sure, I can do all these things ahead of time to make sure that I can like pipe them in via phone to having a group meeting conversation about what are our next steps forward and having webinars about the like different topics that we were going to address in community meetings and stuff. But that aspect, the community engagement aspect, is a challenge because a lot of our stuff is doing activities out on the ground in the environment, doing tours, looking at rivers and creeks and watersheds and engaging the community in it. So if you can't be outside with each other,
there's no such thing as a digital watershed.
Absolutely. And so I've also been thinking about like how do we use this time when people are really tuned into social media to be having regular content that is really rich in information about like environmental education things, but also sharing community resources like in our different cities that I work in, like information about like where you can get emergency resources, information about like people organizing for rent freezes in different cities, so that like it's not just about like environmental education but also community development and like community resource sharing, which the work that I do is at the intersection of community development and environment. So I've been trying to really compile rich resources for both of those kinds of aspects of things so that community members can stay engaged, at least in social media in that way.
Cool. Well, I'm really excited to start this project with you. The reason why we decided to even name the show "Taking Up Space Podcast," and like I said, this was all going down in the works probably 6 to 8 months ago, and then the universe sent coronavirus for some reason, unbeknownst to you and me, to actually light a fire under ourselves and a bunch of other creatives. There are all kinds of exciting projects that are popping off right now out of nowhere, but I really believe that they were all inside all of us all along.
Yeah.
And so, crisis kind of pushes our face against the glass, or if you will, our backs up against the wall, and says, what are you going to do? Like, what is your response? Like, how are you going to show up when the shit hits the fan? And the Taking Up Space podcast, which is all about particularly Black and brown people, are often compartmentalizing themselves or making themselves smaller in the eyes of the world. It's kind of like, move over. It's not just Black and brown people, it's also anybody who has been othered. Right now, even as we're going through this pandemic, I'm thinking about who are we talking about most? Who are we seeing the most of? We are collectively walking through this, but also like, where are our Black leaders?
Right.
Can you name one Black leader that we're seeing every day on social media or on TV that's kind of pointing the global community in the direction of where we should be going, but specifically...
Ayanla.
Okay. Don't come from my auntie. You're gonna get all the letters in the inbox because you tried to play auntie in this. What's your problem with Iyanla? What did she do to you?
I was only half joking.
Oh, okay.
Because she did a video addressing
She did.
coronavirus. Yeah.
You're right. And no, and she also she said, "Y'all know I don't know anything about this technology." 'Cause, she's used to having a camera crew follow her around all the time. She's not used to having to actually fire that shit up at the kitchen table, like for real, for real.
Right.
And so I appreciate her work. I appreciate the work of Marianne Williamson. Right now, she's given a lot of really woo-woo meditations. But if you listen with your heart and not with your mind, which is something I kind of want to pivot this conversation into, a lot of us are taking in content from the time we wake up in the morning because they're dropping these text messages. In New York City, they're dropping these alerts all night. I mean, like they literally, I opted into them. But it's a mixture of Amber Alert type situation announcements, notifications, and then it's also like, let me just pull it up.
I used to have those. I think when I lived in Arlington County, where it sends you any kind of public sort of messaging, like Amber Alerts, or if there's a road closure or whatever.
I mean, it's like Wednesday, grab and go breakfast, lunch available for any student at the entrance of the DOE school building. And then the next day, stay home and stop spreading. And then Thursday, if you're a small business owner, this link. I mean, these are all things that are necessary, but you can imagine waking up to 3 text messages from the city that are telling you all about coronavirus.
Right.
And coronavirus. And so then I'm forced with the situation of having to acknowledge my mortality to coronavirus because I don't want to be, in the number of people who lose their lives to this. None of us want to be. Angle your head up just a little bit because you're getting a green screen tear in we're looking right through your face. Yeah, you're good now. And so being inundated with these things, I'm having this push and pull that's constantly going. And if you're watching right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and Periscope, and lovecityarts.org, let me know how you're feeling as well. I'm having to balance between head and heart. This constant maneuvering of how much do I think about this and give this actual thoughts of preparation, and then make sure that in addition to thinking about the numbers and how this could go well and how this could go badly, also drop into my heart space and say, okay, how am I feeling right now? Because if we're just staying on social media all day, and a lot of us are doing that, in some way, shape, or form. We're scrolling. We're working from home, but we're also scrolling. We're working from home, but we also have the press brief in the background. Really, we need to be checking in with our hearts to make sure that this shit is exactly that we're balanced.
Right. Yeah.
How do you feel about the head versus heart connection in the age of coronavirus?
It's interesting because, for me personally, I've been telling people I've been talking to that I feel like I'm not impacted to the degree emotionally that other people have. And because I feel like the head and heart thing that you're talking about is a struggle I have on a regular day-to-day basis.
You were before coronavirus even came about, this was my lived experience.
No, but for real, I have issues with being OCD. Something that I struggle with.
That's
and
cool. Yeah.
I deal with fear and anxiety on a regular basis. And so in some way, in a cosmic joke sort of way, I feel like my neuroses have prepped me for this crisis situation. I'm laughing, but I'm dead ass serious in that so the whole being extra vigilant about hand washing and sanitizing things, I'm on it. This, my OCD ass not an issue for me. I'm perfectly comfortable policing my whole family.
You were I've been doing this for a minute. This is nothing new.
I mean, I will say obviously I wasn't I'm more vigilant than I've ever been before about these things, but for me to shift into this hyper attentive sort of mode about cleanliness was not a hard thing for me to shift into. And then the fear, I'm not going to say that I wasn't like I haven't experienced fear and anxiety around coronavirus, but what I am saying is that I experienced the degree of fear and anxiety that I've been experiencing around this virus situation is not larger than the fear and anxiety that I deal with in cycles on a regular basis.
Wow.
So
That's a profound statement. So that's something deep to say. I mean, like, it's like you're like, oh, virtually essentially no change on the anxiety meter.
yeah. And so the weird switch flip, I feel like, is that like in this time where everyone else is at the degree of fear and anxiety that I cycle through on a regular basis, I've been the calm to be like, well, these are the things that I do. Like, so I've been just like applying the regular sort of tools that I have in my toolkit to deal with, like trying to be balanced and sane amidst crisis. I've been trying to just like share those things in a pragmatic and practical way.
Things like what,
with my
Stacia?
friends and family.
Things like what?
So, definitely breathing techniques, but also like I've been listening to a lot of like Alan Watts lectures.
Yes,
I really
Alan
like
Watts.
him. Very, very soothing to me. Tara Brach. I've been listening to like sound meditations in the morning, like cycling through some like YouTube playlists that I have of those. And then also just like being mindful in nature. So like getting lost, like looking at flowers and looking at plants and looking at birds.
No, my question for you is where do you think the flowers were a week ago?
I mean, they were there.
I mean, I guess we weren't paying attention.
Yeah, exactly. And even though I'm always like trying to mill about in nature, what this situation has made me do is pay attention to how much I've been taking for granted opportunities to really just be still and find small moments of joy and like being mindfully observant of things around me. It's like when you're sort of, you have these constraints around where you can go, if you're able to be still, what it has done for me is allow me to just like be more observant of the things that are within my close proximity. And when I am outside, I'm like, wow, what a joy this is to be able to be free, because we don't know what's going to escalate or whatever. And so to just be able to like breathe the fresh air and walk in the grass has this new kind of freshness. And even for me, a person who's all about like being in nature, like, I mean, I think even before this, I was always like, I understood the value of nature and how it brought me solace, but it's been even more intensified given the situation of sort of being confined for so much time inside.
Yeah. Totally. I just want to add into the mix, because you said Tara Brach is who you're listening to. You're also listening to Alan Watts, who's amazing. For those of you watching right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, and loveseearts.org, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. We're trying this new format of doing a podcast live without any like stress about it, just like having fun. And we're just tossing out ideas and tools that we're using. You say you're using Tara Brach, Alan Watts. Write those names down if you're not familiar. They can really pull you through this. I want to add into the mix this wonderful woman named Marissa Peer. She was named like the top psychologist in England like years ago, and she deals in hypnotherapy. And hypnotherapy surrounding the idea or planting the seed of thought of I am enough. She actually teaches us to write I am enough on every mirror in the house and on every notebook you can and on sticky notes, and like put I am enough everywhere to remind you of your value in the world. I would be lying to all of you who are going to listen to this later and also who are viewing this if I told you that the situation was wrecking me. It's not, because leading up into all of this, I was already kind of planting like baby seeds. Now I'm not saying that I've not had my freak out and my cry and my like, "Ah," like what's going on. My whole mother decided that she wanted to, come up here into the epicenter of coronavirus and grab my grandmother.
Oh, wow.
And it just caused a whole like meltdown. I was like, why would you put yourself in the epicenter like of the thousands of people who are
Vectors.
say it again.
Virus. I said vectors virus.
Right, yeah, why would you do that? And so it brought up a lot of feelings. If I'm honest with everybody, it brought up feelings of like not being like seen and heard. Like I'm trying to protect you. I'm trying to make sure you keep safe. The CDC and the World Health Organization is saying like do not like shelter in place. The people that came up here and snatched her in addition to her, like, and they did it like it was a complete spy operation. When they did this, everyone that's involved is affected at some level or in a dangerous, population. These are people that are pushing 60 and well beyond. And so I just felt I couldn't put my finger on the emotion. It was like I kept calling it betrayal. It wasn't betrayal though. It was more like I felt.
It sounds like what you said of not being seen and heard.
Yeah.
Right? Like your wisdom was being erased is what it sounds like.
That's exactly. It's like, and like, I don't think that anybody has to like ridiculously pay attention to the things I'm saying. That's another thing I actually want to talk about tonight with you. And it came up in the shower. I finally, you guys will see I'm in a different t-shirt because I finally showered after 3 days. Well, 2 days, 3 days. Anyway, judge yourself. I work from home. I didn't see anybody. I mean, you know what I mean? Like we're in the middle of a fucking quarantine. Judge your fucking self. But I literally in the shower was thinking about like how my thoughts are reorienting around this. Like I don't know how you guys feel, guys and gals watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Periscope. Like this situation has hit me in such a way to where I feel like it's changing me. I think that it's changing me for the better. But I'm telling you, for a moment there, it was kind of like touch and go. It was like, yeah. I mean, in the shower was like, oh my gosh, like you've been out here with Love City Arts and personally and in your family trying to like dispense these moments of wisdom or these nuggets of wisdom that are coming to you. And it doesn't matter how many nuggets of wisdom you have or how many people, it doesn't matter how many inspirational posts I post on the internet. It doesn't matter how many posters from the CDC that I post in an effort to try to help and like help people. If they don't want to receive the help, if these people want to be out on the basketball courts in the middle of a pandemic, and they are, I've got to release the expectation that people will actually err on the side of caution. I've got to release the expectation that people will do what I want them to do. And it's been the most freeing thing. It's been dropping away like over the last 2 days because I'm shaking my fist in the air in my living room going, why is no one, and this was actually, you said like your OCD existed before coronavirus. My need to here we go. It's complete transparency. My need to be like a thought leader, kind of like, I'm the artistic director of this. I live in New York City. I have positive messages and things to say. The attachment to that and the satisfaction that I would get from people being like, yes, Andre, very good. Yummy. That feels good. That feels good.
Those little dopamine hits of affirmation.
Like fueling my God complex. What I'm seeing is happening because everybody's live streaming. Like you literally will go up your feed right now. Everyone's live. There's probably like 20 people live in your circles on Instagram right now and 20 more live on Facebook. And when there's so much noise going on and so much opinion going on and so much expression going on, it really put me in the space of being like, oh, you're just a human being. like it doesn't matter how many
right.
which is like, duh.
Say
Say it again.
I said, you pedestrians, I, Andre, am a thought leader.
Yes, come to my TED talk. And what has happened is that my humility has gone up about where Corona has caused my humility about where I am in the fabric of life to go up. And
Word.
it's also allowed me to sit here because the metrics are clear. I got all these dashboards and things going. There's 0 viewers in here right now watching us stream. And what coronavirus has taught me is that because your lungs could fill with fluid, and because you could have a complication that's unrelated to coronavirus, or that poor gentleman that was 21 years old that had leukemia but didn't know it, went in for coronavirus. They tested him. He tested positive for coronavirus and leukemia at the same time because he didn't know, and then he died. Okay.
Right.
So the question that stands here is, am I live streaming because I want all of you to think that I'm a cool dude or that I'm a nice person, or that, am I doing it for those reasons or for the attention? In the same way that we swipe on these booty apps, am I doing it
Right.
for attention, or am I doing it because this is something that I'm really passionate about, and I'm all about the information sharing and boosting my friends? And coronavirus has broke all of those. Have you had any things that have kind of busted down for you throughout this?
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting. I just want to respond to what you're saying about sort of your own transformations through this process, because and thank you for being so vulnerable about how you've released sort of your need to want to control what people are doing. Because I don't know if you remember, I was sort of in the very beginning of the scare, I had been going on rants sort of about people not policing other people, and I feel like I'm very much so on the margins of thought in this area right now. And I sort of I'm being cautious. I'm encouraging my family to be cautious and safe. We are, we're social distancing. I'm doing all those things. I'm taking those precautions. I'm doing that while at the same time, I personally feel that I am in no place to tell or shame other people what they should or shouldn't be doing. Because at the end of the day, I personally know that I'm not an epidemiologist. And also I feel like the medical field in general is still just grabbing at straws about understanding the way viruses work, the way things work, how to fight them, how they move in our bodies, how adaptive our bodies are. And so for me, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that I refute science or rationality completely, but what I am saying is that I think there's a lot of things that I don't know, and I don't think that it's my right to control or shame anybody into trying to change their mind or opinion about what they aren't going to do with their own body.
Yeah.
And I just get frustrated about the fact, I get that people are afraid, and I think that fear begets anger and frustration.
Yep.
And so I have compassion for the way that people are responding. I just don't think that that's going to build the kind of love and compassion matrix that we need to fight what's happening, I think, physically and metaphysically in terms of this context. So that's just how I feel on that. But I think that what has changed me throughout this process is, so I've been corralled with my family, and I was super excited about being with my family and being together. But what I found is that quickly after being holed up inside together for a couple of days, I love my family. They're great. I'm so happy to be together, and I'm so grateful that I have a support system to hunker down with in a time like this, because so many people don't have that resource.
That's true.
But
Praise for that.
In full disclosure, and hopefully none of my family comes for me if they ever watch this, but the reality is a lot of things have been coming up in terms of old habits and ways of being with just in certain family dynamics that I thought that I had ascended beyond, sometimes I've been doing so much personal growth work and self-development, and I feel like I'll get in this self-righteous place where I think that I've arrived to this like transcended place where I'm just like so balanced, and
You're so zen. I'm so like I'm so woo woo. I'm so spiritual. Like I got this.
I am the force, and then like my mom will say some
Would you
shit,
say
and
that
then
one more
like
time? Say that one more time.
I am the calming force that is, you know, the
Yes.
balance of the family, you know, facilitating, you know, the spirit of Buddhism or whatever. And I'm just, and like my sister or my mom or somebody will just like say something, and it'll just be like right back to like sassy ass like 16-year-old Stacia, who's like, you know, wounded from this thing,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
don't
just
know who you talking to up in here like that, but like
right
I ain't the
what you're
one.
not gonna do. And then, you know, so like
Oh
it's just been
gosh.
funny to see the way that like it's just reminding me that like the way we are, we can grow and develop and change, but it's we're always the way a tree grows, you know what I mean? Like it grows slowly over time, and it changes and expands, and it changes with the season, but it's still always a tree, and it
Hmm.
goes through the same cycles of ebbs and flows and blossoming and retreating in the winter. And so
Yes.
I think going through this like both emotional cycles of dealing with this, and then also like dealing with how I respond to my family's emotional responses to this and or lack thereof or whatever has been interesting for me to observe myself, and how I like sometimes I will get in this like demeanor of like I'm leading the family, and like everyone sort of needs to listen to my sort of well thought out plan of like what we need to do as a unit, and da 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 da, and here are the marching orders. And then I realized like I've been saying all this shit about like people need to like not be controlling, like not think that they know best, and da 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 da. But then I'm doing the exact opposite in my own family unit and thinking that I have the solution to how we need to behave. And so it's just interesting how every time I realize it's a cosmic duality that like you are what you push against, you know,
You
like it's just like
yeah. So in the same way, like if I push against what anybody else is doing in a pandemic, this is gonna take me far like beyond this pandemic. Like literally, if anybody is doing anything that I don't approve of, it would serve me best to just let them do what they need to do and just like secure my own bag of life. You know, like this is not
word.
about money and hoarding anything. This is not about like taking all the toilet paper out the damn store, but like energetically being like, oh, my whole mother is going to get in a car and come into the epicenter of shit, knowing that she's older and like, and you know what? That's cool. That and but like not from a like that's cool, but like from a like I never had control in the first place, and coronavirus and the universe is reminding me of this.
Mhm.
Hey, look,
Mhm.
I got a surprise for you.
Mhm.
I'm about to like. It makes sense that for our um, it makes sense that for our debut, we would invite in the person. We would invite in the person
Hello.
that is that it's the glue that brought us all together,
Connected
that connected us. Say who you are. You're live on the internet and on the Taking Up Space podcast, episode number 1. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Margarita. And what else did I need?
I mean, I think that you being Margarita is plenty. Can you hear her, Stacia?
Yes, I
Or
can.
hear them? My apologies. Tell us who you are, your pronouns, and all of that.
Alright, I use they, them pronouns. I run a zine collective called 350, and I am at home chilling.
Yeah, tell us.
Yeah.
We were just talking about like the need to like not police people or try our best to not police people. I mean,
Mhm.
how do you feel about the policing of other people's time and energy and quarantine right now?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, nobody can control what other people are doing, so there's no need to, like, shame people for, being out. Like, it's a good thing to go outside. Like, uh, do what feels right for you, but like vitamin D is important. Fresh air is important, you know?
Yeah, I do.
Absolutely.
Who all is out there? Is that Stacia?
Say it again?
Yeah.
Who's out there? Is that Stacia?
Yeah, oh, you can't hear Stacia right now.
No.
Oh, man. Yeah, I got to work out this text so that everybody can hear.
Triangulation here.
Yeah, it's like, because what happens is you have like all of this, Stacia can hear you, but you can't hear Stacia. If I get it done the way that it's supposed to get done, then it's like, woo, it starts reverbing and stuff. We'll get there. We're baby steps. Yeah.
You got them.
How are you feeling otherwise about,
Oh my gosh, so good. Today actually was incredible. Okay, let me give you a breakdown.
Tell us about it.
I woke up and played my new video game. It was so fun. I'm kind of obsessed.
We want to know what video game it was.
Okay, I'm playing Zelda Breath of the Wild, which is an open world game.
What are you playing it
Don't know what
I
on?
really want it.
A Switch.
Oh, you have a Switch.
My sister gave it to me for my, what was it, New Year's? And then for my birthday, which is like
Soon.
now.
Very soon, Stacia's saying.
Yeah, very soon in quarantine. I'm actually really like not happy about it, but
You're
it
not
is
the
what it
first person, Mark, that said that. Like,
I know.
one person that I spoke with, who I won't name because they didn't give me permission, but they said that they had been planning and obsessing over their birthday party for probably like the last 3 months, and then coronavirus said at.
is.
Be
I
like
mean
that
that sounds like an
sometimes.
Aries move.
Yeah,
An Aries season.
it is. Look, we're gonna continue on with the podcast, but I'll call you a little later.
Okay.
Thank you
sounds
for
good.
being on. I mean,
Tell them I love them.
Stacia
Bye-bye.
says that she loves you very, very much, and we'll talk soon.
Also, same.
All right.
Both of you.
Yes, love you.
Bye.
Bye. The glue. When I was living in that compound commune from hell. HE double hockey sticks. And here we are. Okay, so in our show notes today, let me make sure that I'm not completely off. Yeah, how do you feel about, okay, so there's a picture that I'll put in the show notes or a link to it.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
And the picture said, "It's not your job to create right now. It's not your job to make the most of this time. It is your job to stay safe and make your health, both physical and especially mental, a priority." How do you feel that coronavirus is bumping up against hustle culture?
Ooh, yeah. I thought it's been an interesting dialogue of seeing people being like, now is the time that you should you can get to all the things that you've been wanting to get to and putting off. And then I've seen a response being like, I'm tired of people saying that like you can do all of these things and be creative. Like maybe some of us don't have the emotional energy to be able to do that. And my response to both sides of the dialogue is like, you are both right. Like whatever is getting you to feel okay right now, and however you are right now, whatever is your situation right now, and however you're able to cope and handle this situation, that's fine, and that is good, and that is what it is.
And it's
whatever
enough.
Will be.
Back to Marissa. You are enough. Oh, so I gotta button this up while you're saying this because it's perfect. Her thing is, I'm enough. Put it everywhere and feel it deeply in your soul, because the question that begs to be asked is, how would you behave in your life day to day if you really believed that you were enough? And I just want to sit there and roll that. I mean, like it's a game. It's changed everything. How would I relate to my relationships, family and otherwise? How would I relate to my work? How would I relate to this? Like, it's easy for me to look right down at the screen right now and see that 0 people are watching, or that 2 people are coming and going, or that 14 people were here and then they're gone. It's easy. But if I really believed that I was enough, it wouldn't matter, Stacia.
Right. Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely. And
this, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it wasn't honestly until I got to a point where I was like, I'm not, as a creative person, I was so stifled by carrying the performance of my creativity and like need and
Say
doing
that.
it for the affirmation.
Can you say that again? Can you say that again? Because people that are going to watch and listen to this later, like, go
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. Is I am a creative person by nature, and I was so stifled by in the past, and even, in full disclosure, sometimes still, but so stifled by being creative for the affirmation that could be resulting from the performance, and not for the joy of doing the thing, indiscriminate of who gives a shit or who gives me a clap or applause or a like or whatever. I was so stifled by, like producing for the wrong reasons,
Yeah.
and so I wasn't able to produce.
I'm
It
gonna I'm
wasn't
gonna put I'm gonna
until
put on the board right now on the wall. I'm gonna put on there freedom from the claps.
yes, absolutely.
Not no,
And
not freedom from clap because that's something completely different. But
right, wrap it up.
yeah, yeah,
Stay safe
please
against
do.
corona and also STIs.
Yes, that shit
Um,
will.
Anywho,
Yeah.
but getting back to what I was saying is that like it wasn't until I really was like, I don't have anything to prove to anybody. I don't have anything to prove to anyone. I'm not getting paid at this point to do this thing.
And that's okay.
I started with was poetry, and it's fine because I'm doing it for the joy of it. And to some extent, that's better because I don't have any constraints or pressures when there is the gaze on my work other than myself, and whether the thing that I produced reminds me of why I created that thing, makes me feel joy, if those words feel tantalizing in my head and mind and mouth when I say them. That's why I write poetry. That's why I've written poetry. I love words. I love wordplay. I love the feeling of language being entangled with emotions. I fucking love that shit. And so once I was able to finally divorce myself from, well, does this hit for people like it hits for me? Does anyone care? Does anyone like it? Once I like let all of that shit go is when the wellspring of expression was able to flow.
Yeah,
And
and
I
I
have
mean,
to
and you
keep
went
reminding
literally
myself
not to
that.
interrupt, but interrupting. You went from completely like not putting your art out into the world to having like a whole medium board, like of just freedom of because when we get out of the likes and when we get out of the loves. And I mean, I can't even stand when people are like, "Did you see what happened on Instagram? Like, who read it? Like, they read it. I saw they read it. It says seen. Like, that's not real life. Like, what's real life is the actual expression inside you coming out. What did we do as kids? I love thinking back to like 6-year-old, 5-year-old Andre and how he wasn't concerned with likes and views.
Yeah, you didn't give a shit.
He didn't give a shit. There's two things that kid did. That kid walked up to adults, telling the adults exactly what he wanted, and he usually got it, which also can contribute to my spoiled ass ways. Because I was that well-spoken black kid that was like, exceptional Negro. They're like, oh my God, a well-spoken, articulate, articulate black boy. Like, let's
Black
give.
Jesus, baby. Let's give him all the cookies.
Let's give him all the cookies. Exactly. And so, because of that, I remember being that kid that just asked and believed of life and then also just did things for the fun, a choir of stuffed animals, pretending to be the MTA, traffic conductor, train conductor up and down my block. Like that kid, how can we invite that kid back into the space?
Yeah, being embodied. Yo, honestly, Andre, first of all, I'll say you really did, like, you were part of the first, like, match light of fire under me to, like, really start, like, putting myself out there creatively. And I will never stop thanking you for giving me that energy because you put that energy out so much into the world. And I hope that I, at least meager one person me, like can show you like the impact that you have had and can have on people,
I mean,
and like how powerful that is, you know,
child, you ain't me.
beyond
Listen,
likes or whatever.
you ain't meager, number one. You ain't meager. You are beautiful, whole, and complete as you are. Let's just get that on the record, number one.
You right, you right.
You're beautiful and you're lovable. And also, like, I am the type of artist that really believes that my stage and my accolades are not the only thing that matters on this earth. If I am climbing to another Broadway show or a Tony or anything like that, if I get there and I'm basking in the spotlight and none of my friends and people and fellow creatives are doing the same, have I really won? Like, if you're writing your poetry and writing your books and not helping anybody else write their books, like, are you really winning?
Right.
If I get to my Broadway stage and or actually, look, shameless flex because I fucking worked while I was there and it was rough. So when I go into my next Broadway show, like, if I'm there but like no one else feels the same passion and drive inside them, or no one's encouraging them. Like, one thing that I'm realizing right now along my artistic journey is that, like, encouragement matters. Having someone that says, I believe in you and I believe in your gifts, it matters. It is the difference between a dream dying and a dream withering. And
right.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Well, and I was just going to say, Andre, the other thing too is that I have like a really sensitive like bullshit meter. Like, I'm just like very sensitive to placations and like people just saying shit to say shit. And so while I've had to do my own work to not produce work for affirmations, I think the reason why I soaked up your encouragement and support is because I could tell that it was genuine, and pure. And so I sponged that up because I knew that it's not bullshit. And so I was like yearning for that, that encouragement that was pure and honest and real. And I got it from you. And that was just like, all right, now it's go time. Like,
here's the thing that people don't get about me is that you got it from me. And like, if you become a New York Times bestseller, or if you don't, like, that to me, it's not about the buyback. You know what I mean? Like, it's about, like, I legitimately get joy from you being expressed.
Right,
like
right.
That makes me happy, knowing that you are expressed, knowing that you are feeling better about your energy, your creative energy flowing through you. Like, that's what matters to me. So yeah, good.
Thank you so much for that, though, and your energy in general.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. Let's talk about. You said you wanted to talk about the connection between herbs, mindfulness, and immunity boost. What's the word on that?
Okay, so not to get super woo, but I don't give a fuck. Like, whatever.
Live.
So during this time, like, while I have struggled with some like fear and anxiety, I think one thing that has made me feel more secure is an awareness of like sort of practical herbs and like foods that have certain antiviral, antifungal properties.
Yeah.
So, I've been really thinking about living cultured foods, so like apple cider vinegar, Bragg's, we all know, has the mother in it.
I love some Bragg's.
Right. And thinking of, I made some sauerkraut, and I've been making fresh juice for my family every day with like raw ginger and garlic, which are both antiviral and antifungal, a bunch of like orange things that have, vitamin A's and vitamin C's, kale. But I've been really trying to infuse our bodies with, really yummy sort of fortifying nutrition, because to me it's more so like somebody I saw posted, not to bring in some like negative whatever, but I saw somebody, like, there was a meme that was just like gargling with salt water, drinking vinegar, and just had these like basic sort of home remedies of like how to fight virus like in your body, and somebody had like X'd it out and was like, no, 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 just keep your ass inside or something like that. And I'm just like, I don't want to push up against either of those sides of things, but I do think that there's basic practical wisdom to like looking at your body as an environment.
Yeah.
Right? And understanding from my perspective that if you're cultivating sort of a living, thriving environment inside of yourself, I truly believe, and that's more than just nutrition, right? It's about your thoughts. It's about your nutrition. It's about the energy you exchange in people that you're in relationship with. It's about how you're composting your emotions, right, into something.
Wait. Wait. Okay. All right. I was with you, and we were all good.
Composting your emotions.
What the fuck?
Okay, that metaphor that I've been using, I guess, to me means like, so expression, for example, is an example of what I mean by that metaphor. When I get emotions, particularly negative ones, right? I'm thinking what I've learned in my journey of like mindfulness is that like rather than trying to like tamp down that anxiety or that fear or that anger or frustration, I observe it, right? And I let myself feel it.
Yes.
But then if it lingers beyond sort of, 10 to 15 minutes, I'm looking for a way to sort of express that out of my body so that it's not getting trapped in my muscles, trapped in my physical body or in my mind. And so I'm try and figure out a way to process that emotion. And that's what I mean by composting. So in the same way you're breaking down, the soil is breaking down dead leaves and dead plants.
Yes.
And, into nutritionally rich soil where other things can grow. I look at processing emotions either through expression via art, via yoga and meditation or exercise, via just expressing yourself verbally to get yourself heard. Whatever way you need to like process your emotion at that time, I like to use the metaphor of compost because I really like the idea of thinking about the body as a fractal representation of the environment, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
So
Yeah.
does that make sense?
It makes total sense. No. I mean that holds weight. I mean, from my spiritual background, I believe that observing thoughts matters. Like not just like I'm sad. Like some people wake up and they're like, I'm just sad, or I've been in a mood all day, or I'm irritated. Well, if you're irritated, but you don't really investigate or compost, as you say, the reasons why you are irritated, like, oh, I'm irritated because I don't feel stable in my relationships. I don't feel stable in my relationships because I'm not speaking up. I'm not telling someone what I like, this uncomfortable truth that I have. I'm not telling them the uncomfortable truth because society has made it such that like savory, like sweet things are better than, uncomfortable truths. But do I want to be do I keep this going, or do I want to continue to suffer? No, I don't want to continue to suffer. So maybe I should speak my truth. I mean, we have to really start breaking down and composting those ideas so that they don't become that banana peel that we slip on. They become, a lesson.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
And so I've been really trying to use this time to sort of, I've been fascinated in sort of like holistic approaches to health for quite some time now. I've struggled with a lot of like chronic illness. I had a disc herniation in my back. And so, I had to not be dependent on opiates. In full disclosure, I really had to sort of look at a different path of like, how can I utilize other things to sort of have a healthful body, to address pain, to address depression and anxiety. And so, again, with the sort of like a lot of the struggles that I've dealt with in my life, I feel like have prepared me for this like coronavirus context and being like, all right, what's good for this? What's good for that? And sort of like digging through my resources of herbal and holistic remedies. And I'm
Yeah.
not just saying that like drinking some like ginger tea and garlic is going to is going to like cure corona. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that having a holistically healthy body and mind, I think, is an approach to sort of staying healthy. And I think the way we feel about how we're nurturing the health of our body
Yeah.
is fortifying defense against vulnerabilities of viruses,
So what you're telling me is that I should not have laid down last night eating Haribo gummy bears, and because they were still there this morning when I woke up, I should not have eaten more.
Don't get it twisted. I ate 2 bags of Cheetos yesterday in my bed as I was.
All right.
So it's everything, there's a middle path in everything.
Yes.
Right? Like
Yeah.
everything in moderation. So I eat, I ate my Cheetos, but I also drink fresh juice, right? Like earlier in the
Yeah.
day. So, yeah, and so I've just been sort of like thinking about like rather than just lingering on the fear, I've thought of like, wow, this is an interesting time for me to really sort of be more attentive to exploring the like herbal approaches to different things because and not to disaster cast, but I've been thinking I live in that space, so it doesn't like make me feel bad.
You're like it's Saturday.
I'm like, this is an opportune time for me to sort of like really, really brush up on my sort of like herbal remedy education for myself during the downtime that I have. I bought an online herbal medicine course like last year, and I have not gone through any of the modules, and I was thinking to myself like, now is the perfect time.
Now it's time because if
Because
if Gilead and Kaiser Permanente and all these different pharmaceutical makers decide that they want to like drive the price of a drug up to $600 a pill, we need to know which herbs and which things can do the same, can do similar or have similar effect. I'll put it that way.
Yes, absolutely. And so, it's almost been, I've been looking at, I talked to you about this the other day, but like as a game in terms of like, all right, now this is the push to sort of like actually like attentively pay attention to these things that I've always been interested in, because I'm so compelled by like being a source of resource to community that it's almost like a crisis situation for me. I'm like, this is when I thrive, because I want to use the knowledge that I have to like heal and support and protect like my family and my network. And so when there's some kind of threat, maybe it's about my Leo mentality, I'm like stalking around like, you not gonna fuck with my family is what you're not gonna do.
Right.
Like,
and definitely not my friends either. Right.
And my friends, and when I say family, I mean all of y'all.
Not
just blood. My chosen family as well. And so, I've been really trying to integrate, like, thinking about ways to weave into my daily routine, because I am much more enclosed than I've ever been before, to really think about, like, how can I build a schedule of, like, wellness, not as a fear tactic, but as a way to sort of cultivate a healthy environment inside and out for myself and my family.
And I mean, it's kind of wild that it took coronavirus for us to get on that vibe, but however we get there is however we get there. And I think that there's a lot of light workers and healers and people from all backgrounds who are really kind of going within. Like we're looking out and we're watching the press conferences and things like that, and we're becoming informed with the science, but we're also like going introspective. Like I'm looking at myself right now, and not in a self-preservation mode, and not me. I'm still very much we, not me. I love that hashtag that emerged out of this hashtag we, not me, because. So I'm not coming with a selfish energy, but I'm definitely, because I'm the only one that's 100% responsible for myself.
Right.
and owning my emotions and taking full responsibility, I'm like, oh, this is the time for me to actually like do that yoga every day, eat those
Right.
vegetables. Maybe, I did put the Haribo away in the closet. I'll see if they can stay there. But it's the work that we're all called to.
Right, right. And I think also like the possibility of having to ration in some ways like has made me in general I put like I'm all about material mindfulness on a lot of my sort of social media things as a way to describe the fact that like, and not from a place of like self-righteousness or pretentiousness, but like in terms of my activism or whatever, or my life's calling vocation,
Yeah.
I'm very attentive to how materials flow, like how things in the world move and flow, particularly how civilization right now is engaging with materials as commodities.
Could you
And
please,
so,
because everybody doesn't, we're not as lofty and geeky as you all the time. Could you break that shit down?
so like the way we use things, right? Like our necessities, our trinkets, whatever, they all come
Plastics.
yeah, right. They all come from raw materials. And so rather than being one of the like white environmental preachy, like bring your bag and shame on you for doing X, Y, and Z, I'm not on that vibe by any means, but it's just a part of me because I'm naturally a systems thinker. I'm always engaging my thoughts in how am I engaging with the materials around me, and how can I build in having a more cyclical cycling of like the way I use materials. How can I up that? I'm always trying to think about like how can I make things more cyclical in the way that I use them rather than disposable. And so it's been interesting in that I like kind of smirk a little bit in the fact that like when we are in times of presumed or real scarcity is when it really makes us sort of look at what is like necessity versus excess, and how do we, like,
Wow. Oh,
it just
wow.
gives us more of a perspective about like what's really necessary versus like how much bounty we actually have, and what it means to sort of ration and just like have more attentiveness about like how much food do I actually need, like how much food can I survive on, like it's interesting for me, for the world to have to be thinking in those terms, because I'm like, in some ways I personally am like, bring that on, because I enjoy having to sort of have a contemplation about like what do I need versus what is excess, because I enjoy sort of the challenge of having to think that through and think it through for my family, rather than like fear it, because
Right.
I have a regular day-to-day like contemplation about how much excess we live in,
Yeah. It's really a lot.
Sorry, that was long-winded.
No, it's
but-
cool though. It's cool though. I get what you're saying. I mean, too long don't read is we got a lot of shit. and we could have less, and we could be sharing more with the rest of the world. I mean, I've been talking about it all week. I've been doing a live stream every night at 8:30 for anybody who wants to show up and just be present with each other and kind of recap the day and all of its shenanigans. And one of the things that's really been coming up for me is that we caused this. We collectively, by deforestation and killing the rainforest and getting our stuff from the Dollar Tree and from Amazon.com and driving and made in China, this and that. This is not about, for me, manufacturing wars and political warfare about manufacturing. It's about the fact that we like our shit from the Dollar Tree. If we like our shit from the Dollar Tree, someone's making that for us, and that person's making so little money that they're encountering animals and organisms that they never encountered before, because they live in like actual scarcity, not this let's snatch every roll of toilet paper out the damn store American shit. No, these people are actually like catching rats in
Right.
alleys,
foraging on whatever is available.
right. And that foraging is what caused, this is what they're not talking about, They're not talking about this on CNN and MSNBC. That kind of foraging and devastation caused people to have to eat animals that were not clean and were not safe. And through a zootic change from animal to human being, rarely happens. All of a sudden, coronavirus was introduced into the human realm of things. And here we are. I'm like, what if I had less things around me, but it was given to increase the lives of factory workers in China? And I know that people are going to think I'm being Pollyanna and like, you know, super unrealistic about the way life works. But if we could have given more food to that Chinese person in Wuhan, and allowed them to have vegetables, and whatever, you know, the things they needed. Like, could we have prevented this type of outbreak and pandemic? And I believe that we could have if we wanted to.
Yeah, I think it's like nature has a natural ballast for sort of equalizing things when things are too out of check.
Yeah.
Like that's how it's just like the way I think it's just the way the universe works is that there's sort of like there's waves of like the ups and downs and the push back and forward.
Self-correcting.
Right, self-correcting. And so I think when things can get out of whack to a certain degree before, you know, there's a check and balance to that circumstance. And so perhaps out of all of this context, like if it goes, like, heaven forbid, this is an extended period of us having to be sort of isolated from each other. But if this does like persist, perhaps what will arise out of that is there being a different relationship that we all have to how we use commodities.
Yeah.
In a way that shows us like what we needed versus what was excess, and it will perhaps instill in our society this muscle memory of how much excess we truly were living in. I mean, if you talk to elders who lived through the Great Depression and World War II, them have this sort of relationship to, I think a lot of grandparents who instill that you eat every bit of everything on your plate sort of
I remember that.
I think that comes from living in real scarcity and
waste not, want not type shit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so and not to be just like the eternal pessimist, because I really think I'm just like an optimistic nihilist.
Okay.
You know, I think the silver lining of this is that, like, perhaps we all will sort of have a different meditation on how we can actually survive and thrive on much less than we have been living on, and that perhaps it's more healthful for all of us to live in a more egalitarian complex than we have been living in, where we're so bourgeois to think that the real surplus that we've been in America living in, that is like to just be flippant about all the
and pretend like everyone in the world, I mean, is experiencing this opulence and abundance that we are. I don't think you know Lauren Lavender yet, but earlier in the week on the nighttime live stream, she was talking about the fact that like we pretend like we don't have abundance, but yet we have, like, we're saying that off of our new laptop or even an old laptop,
right,
while streaming services. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's like, this has really opened up my heart about the ways in which we cause pandemic by not caring for the other. And I feel like the universe has our asses in a chokehold right now, where it's like, oh, you gonna care. You're going to care about each other, or I'm going to send a pandemic that puts all your asses in the house. You know, and that's legitimately what I feel the universe is saying. You don't want to care about each other. You want people in other countries because they're on the other side of the world, and you like your Dollar Tree shit for cheap. you don't care
Go to your
about
corner.
go to your
right?
literally the universe said go to your corner and think about your ways, think about it
Yeah.
in a quarantine, because otherwise you wouldn't. You and I would not be here. I mean, we were working towards this project all along, but we would not
Right.
have
But
had
this
the.
really like put the fire.
And the reason why is because we were not caring enough about what it means to, and I mean, I'll say I statements now since I'm about to go off the deep end, but like I was not caring enough about raising voice to the things that I actually care about.
Yeah, no, I co-sign. I co-sign what
You
you're
know,
saying.
I
for
would
sure.
Instagram and all beautiful things too, but some beautiful,
Right.
some positive things and some negative things were taking the place of me focusing on continuing to build community, continuing to create as if my life depended upon it. Because guess what? When your paycheck goes away, there are different things to depend on. You know, we
Absolutely.
depend on clothes and fashion and music and money. What do we do when clothes and food and fashion and money disappears? What do you depend on
Right.
then? It's community. It's building. It's a building of community. And so we're being faced with, well, like I said earlier, nose pressed against glass, back against wall, whatever metaphor works for you. The universe is saying, pay attention. Because someone, like I said, I can't reiterate it enough. And look this up. Look at I'll post again, or if you look down my feed, you'll see the wonderful TED Talk that this environmental expert and scientist did about the fact that this was introduced due to unclean food sources. Remember all of the racism and bullshit that was happening at the beginning of this when they were like, well, you know, and people, they thought it was cute. Y'all thought it was cute to be putting up these videos of that young lady eating a bat. You know, that shit was real cute and lightweight, low-key racist at the time. You know, it felt really cute to be like, I know she had the full bat wing in the soup. We don't know if it was real or fake, but like, no matter what,
Yeah.
regardless of whether it's real news or fake news, someone.
Virus is on that ass now.
But-
What's so funny now?
What's so funny now? What's so funny now? And like I said, the universe, that's like the best metaphor I've had all fucking day. As I love myself publicly. The universe, Mother Nature, whatever language is comfortable with you, has our asses in a choke hold. Red and yellow, black and white, billionaires, trillionaires, millionaires, Joe Schmo. It's telling us if we don't care for each other, if we don't social distance, if we don't look out for our symptoms, if we don't recognize that we could be asymptomatic and still transfer this thing, if we don't do those things and actually love, care, and cherish for each other, it's going to continue to move in this direction. And also, newsflash, I'm not trying to put cart before horse and be super Aquarius on that ass, but coronavirus is not the only thing that exists out there
Absolutely.
that could
not.
bring harm, and we need to really get deliberate about the ways in which I'm going to get off my soapbox now. What do you think about this?
No, I completely am co-signing the things that you're saying. Absolutely. And I'm also just thinking about like, how are we using this time to sort of like, yeah, it makes sense that everyone's sort of like watching the news and watching social media feed for whatever because you're holed up and you're anxious or whatever. But what I've been trying to do when I feel myself spinning out in the social media webs is connect to somebody who I haven't connected in with a long time and send a text or send a call or FaceTime and be like,
Nice.
yo, are you okay?
Nice.
Do you need anything?
Nice.
What's good with you? And I'm wondering how many people just like, I'm saying this from curiosity and not pretension, but I'm wondering like, because I'm all about hacking our like digital sphere with love and like true, pure, authentic connection instead of just like trolling and judging and whatever.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what I feel like is the real antidote on some woo-woo shit that I don't care. But
Come on.
I feel like that connection, that energy of caring is sort of, that is the antidote, because our body is a mind-body complex. And there's so many people, who knows what people out there in social distancing who are already feeling isolated, isolation is that much more intensified. You never know, like you do not know. And so as much as I've had the emotional capacity to be able to reach out to people who I haven't connected to in a while, especially ones that are vulnerable, I've been trying to really make a point to check in and be like, are you good? Like, are you okay? Do you need any basic necessities? Because, like, we'll figure it out. Like, we'll get you what you need.
Right.
And I think that energy, whether people take you up on it or not, just, like, authentically having that energy, can us all paying that forward in whatever capacity we can.
Yeah.
I think that's the shit that's going to turn the tide.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. I'm 100% with you. It's going to be that interdependence. That's going to be,
which is ironic amidst social distancing, right? Because, like, you don't have to be in physical space to fucking show up for somebody.
Stacia, I think the whole paradigm of the ways in which we gather and how we love on each other is changing right as we speak. I think as we speak, I think that once this completes and once we get back to the new normal, because I don't think it's going to return to what it was because of all of the financial constraints that people are under and the unemployment and all of that, like this will never be the same. But I think that we are going through a evolution and incredible moment of transformation as we speak. I don't think any of us are going to emerge from this differently. The last thing I want to talk about, because it's something that's near and dear to me, and because we have this platform, and because I'm a grown ass motherfucker, I can do what I want. And I have a supportive co-host and friend on here that's also about that life. I want to speak to the Andrew Gillum scandal that's going on right now. I'm going to speak loosely. I'm not a news reporter. I'm going to talk about what I know. This former Florida gubernatorial candidate, a Democrat, black man, and that's important for context and what I'm going to in my riff. Was found in a hotel room with someone who was overdosed and like virtually incapacitated. And this morning, one of the far right blogs, and also, we found out that he was with a hustler, essentially, with a gay hustler. This gubernatorial candidate from Florida is a married man with like 3 beautiful brown children, beautiful brown wife. He ends up in this very precarious situation of being with I wouldn't say hustler, a sex worker, in a Florida hotel room. Ends up today that I saw like a picture of this politician naked, laid out on the ground in his own vomit. And someone took a picture of that, sold it to the press, and then now they're exploiting it as he goes to rehab. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because, in addition to holding space in the world for us actually caring about the factory workers in Wuhan, I want to also add to the list that we hold space for queer identified and people who are sexually different. My who are not heterosexual. My DMs have been going off all day about this because I made a post and I basically said, look, I'm not going to throw stones at Andrew Gillum because I've been afforded, where would I be without grace? I've done a lot of messed up things too because I could not be out and proud. Now, I'm not saying that this man, because people are like, well, how could he do this to his wife and kids? He did it to his wife and kids because he doesn't live in for many reasons that are known to him. But he did it, I feel, part of why he did it is because we live in a society where he could not be an upstanding politician and he could not get the votes and he could not get the approval from the mainstream if he were queer or a black gay man. Self. Exactly. Whatever his if he's in whatever his authenticity is, and I can't speak to that shit, but like whatever his truth is, he could not live that So therefore, he had to be at a wedding and, ending up with all this crystal meth and all kinds of drugs thrown throughout. And they probably were having amazing sex on all of these drugs, and then, passed out because their systems got overwhelmed. And if there's vomit and bodily fluids everywhere, something was too strong. And all of this is being acted out through pain.
Right.
Like through actual pain, like this man was in pain. No one is laid out butt ass naked on a hotel room floor. I've not been laid out butt ass naked on a hotel room floor. Truth to power. All these people throwing these stones. And what about the wife? What about the children? What about the wife and the children? You act like your ass hasn't been passed out somewhere. A restaurant just closed down. Day before yesterday, the restaurant that I worked in Soho, New York City, closed down because of corona. It had to be coronavirus. There's no people in the restaurants. Like they just shut their doors. I slept on the bathroom floor of that restaurant more times than I care to admit to all of you right now. To me, because I was out partying and drinking and getting wild, trying to forget the troubles of, rent due and being an out of work actor in New York City and beyond. I've drank myself into oblivion. Or maybe I went to a bar and I didn't pick up somebody that I wanted to pick up, where I was going home to basically fuck myself and, real talk. And And then I had to stop at the restaurant and sleep on the floor because I was too drunk to make it home. These things happen to people who are hurting and who use substances to ease. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the thing that I loathe about celebrity culture in general is that people put celebrities on this pedestal when wild shit that they do, that a lot of us have done, comes to light because they're under the microscope lens and because their dirt can be commodified. Basically, then everyone wants to wag their finger and be judgmental and say, well, you were put up to, you have this responsibility because you're in the limelight, and da-da-da-da-da. And it's just these people are people, And, they're just people like you and I. And particularly if you're somebody who's really trying to function in this representative democracy, in this republic, to advocate for the rights of the people.
Right.
You can't really, there's no choice but to be in the limelight. And so it doesn't mean that if you had struggles and trials and tribulations that those all go away because, you get some righteous wings because you took on the vocation of being in the public sphere.
Right.
And I think people just need to have compassion about that. Just because you're a celebrity doesn't mean that you're not a human.
That is literally the damn theme that's been running through this entire conversation up until now. Have some compassion. Have some motherfucking compassion. And one of my girlfriends who I love, and my sister friend Tamisha, literally, I was just I just need for all of us to get down off of our high horses and realize that I could speak to me. I'll just speak in I statements because that's the healthiest thing. If the worst happened to me of the situations I put myself in, I have tried and successfully survived crystal meth myself, and all kinds of other drugs. You name it, I probably tried it. Okay. And we could have gone the way of Andrew Gillum, and someone could have been standing over us taking a live photo, and I don't think that I'm different than him. And I think that us putting a difference between us and Andrew Gillum, or us and the factory worker in Wuhan, or us and the homeless person in our public transit systems, I think that distance is going to be the distance there's a correlation between the distance we put between the other and the severity of our suffering.
Word. Come on with the come on.
And I think we just need to wake up to that. The further I push my way away, the further I distance myself emotionally, spiritually, and physically from that person on the train, from the person in Wuhan, and from Andrew Gillum, to the degree of the distance I'm far from that's how high the heat is going to turn up on my suffering.
On that ass.
On that ass. So we need to find compassion. We need to find care. We need to find it quickly. I'm gonna give you the last word because that's my rant. What
Thank you.
what do you want to offer up to everyone under the sound of your voice and beautiful albino face?
Oh, thank you. I just kind of want to follow up with what you're saying in that, like, I just want to advocate for compassion, not for virtue's sake, because I think one thing that really frustrates me, or I think is had been a challenge in my journey about a lot of the new agey mindfulness meditation sort of affect, is this idea of like loving kindness and compassion that to me felt like this high horse of like having compassion out of trying to chase being virtuous. And what I've come to find in my own journey and path is that I find compassion out of exactly what you're saying, in that I find compassion in oneness. In that, like, if I have compassion for myself, I realize that the distance between me and the person who is talking to themselves, right, in
On the train.
metro station,
Yep.
is slim to none. It's slimmer than slim on a bad day.
Let me tell you something. I am that person. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? I am the person
honestly.
sitting on the train talking to myself on a wild day.
Right. And so what I'm getting at is that, like, you never know what circumstances you can be put in, right, until you're put in them. And so I really try to have compassion for other people, and by having compassion for myself, because I see that we are the same. We're just different sides of the same coin. And that's the last word I'd like to leave on, and that hopefully people can chew on that rather than trying to just like love everyone for the sake of like trying to be a good person but not understanding what that means. Good is relative, right?
Yeah. Wow. And that's coming from a place of encouragement, because we all are capable of being that change and being that good person. Like, that's not like
Absolutely.
that's not like get your shit together. That's a like, yes, we can. That's that like, that's that yes, we can energy. Yeah. Well, I want to thank everybody who stopped by today and popped in and out and in and out. It was fun watching all the views go from 0 to 1 to 5 to 2. We are Taking Up Space, the podcast. We are two beautiful brown people who have opinions about things and really want to elevate and encourage and bring light and love to the earth through our discussions. We won't only be talking about coronavirus and Andrew Gillum. We'll be talking about whatever is happening in our lives creatively, spiritually, and emotionally. And trust me, if you know us the way you think you know us, it's going to be a fun journey. But what I love and I want to draw attention to is these wonderful little people, these little rock people with glasses. That's Stacia and me as our icon. I think you could see it right there, Stacia, behind me. And it's the two rocks are just holding hands. And there's nothing required more in life, or there's no greater blessing in life than to be able to walk hand in hand with anyone, let alone someone who understands you, vibes with you, and wants to have the conversations about light and love and inclusion that you want to have. If you're lucky enough, Stacia's crazy as fuck. Let me tell you that. I'm going to just put that out there in the world. I'm crazy as fuck. And so our crazies are constantly bouncing off of each other, crazier than any molecular example you've seen. But we may be crazy as fuck, but we're also really, really, really crazy about seeing the world manifested in a higher vibration and energy than when we found it.
Word.
And so
Absolutely
we're going to keep showing up. If you listen, we're so grateful. If you're watching, we're so grateful. If you want to pass this on to a family friend or a friend of the family or anyone that you know, if you want to pass it on to the Martian that you pass as you're walking down the street in social distancing, do that. We're going to continue to show up. It's not going to be a regular schedule. It's going to be as we're guided, because that's life. And when we do show up, just know that we're holding you in our heart.
Absolutely that.
Absolutely that. All right. Have a great night, everybody. I'm going to take my hour dinner break between now and the next live stream of love. And
Love you all.
yeah, love you all. As Stacia's saying, this has been the first episode of many of the Taking Up Space podcast. Have a great night, everybody.